This is Systems Day 5. It's part 1 of substitution. Before we get into how we do this, let's look at the y. And what I'm going to need you to do is this box here on the left. I'm going to need you to stop the video. Go ahead and write that into your notes. It'll be important. And come back in just a moment. Alright, so we're going to talk about something that's called transitive property. Notice I have 25 equals this and 25 equals this. So if I have 25 equals 10 plus 15 and 25 also equals 20 plus 5, then we can say that 10 plus 15, since it equals 25 here, must equal 20 plus 5, which is a 25 there. If you remember back at the beginning of the year when we talked about properties, the transitive property said that if A equals B and A equals C, then B equals C. We're going to use that to start substituting in our systems. So here we go. Here's a step. Solve for y. Set them equal to each other. Solve for x. And then plug that back in using y for the x back into the original equation. So let's look at what we've got here. So we have y equals 3x. And 2x plus y equals 10. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve this, and I'm going to subtract the 2x here, subtract the 2x on this side to get my y's all by themselves. And I have y equals 10 minus 2x, or as they do here, negative 2x plus 10. We just changed the order right there. So we take this first part here and the second part here, and we put them all together and we solve. So when we solve these two, the first thing we do is we're going to move our lesser x over to the side with the greater x. So that negative 2x, the opposite, would be to add 2 to both sides. We have 5x equals 10. We're going to divide by the coefficient of x on both sides. We have x equals 2. Now the simplest way to do is to plug that 2. We had this equation, y equals 3x. We're going to plug the 2 in place of the x. So y equals 3 times 2. So here we have the 6. That's our y value. And we have 2, which is our x value. And what that means is that when x equals 2, y equals 6 in both equations. Now, let's go ahead and start putting this into practice. So, I have 6x equals y, and I have 4x plus 18 equals y, which means that 4x plus 18 will equal 6x. All right, let's now work. I'm going to work all in black now. I'm going to 4. The coefficient 4 is less than 6, so I'm going to move this one up, which means I need to not add. I'm going to subtract. That's a positive 4x, so I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides of the equation. I end up with 2x equals 18. Alright. So I'm going to divide by 2. I end up with x equals 9. Now I plug this 9, and this is going to be the easiest one, y equals 6, and instead of x, I'm going to multiply by 9. So y equals 54. Now my equation here, or not my equation, my solution must be 9 for my x value, 54. All right, let's do number 2. So I can say that x minus 2 equals negative 2x plus 4. Notice my y's are isolated by themselves. So my lesser x is negative 2, so I'm going to add 2x to both sides. Here I get 3x minus 2 equals, those two x's cancel out, 4. I'm going to move my constant from the side with my variable. So I'm going to add 2 to both sides. I end up with 3x equals 6. Divide by my coefficient of x. Divide by 3, divide by 3. X equals 2. Now I can go ahead, I can put into my answer right here. I know that x will equal 2. Now it looks like the easiest thing to work with will be the second one. So I'm going to write in here, let me do this in a different color for the video's sake, y equals, and I'm going to put my 2 in parentheses like that, minus 2. Well, 2 minus 2 equals 0. So my y value when x equals 2 is 0. So my final answer is this right here. Let me box this in for you here. Okay. Now, on this next set, my expectation is that you will solve for y, and you will show me your work. Your notes must show your work. Here's the result. Now, here's an interesting one. We have x equals 6 minus x. Well, what happens here is we're going to add here, add here. We have 2x equals 6, divide by 2, divide by 2, x equals 3. So my answer, the x value will be 3. So now I'm going to go up here. I have y equals, look at this, y equals, well, it just equals x. So that's 3. So y equals 3. Very easy. All right, number 4, I have solved for y on this second equation. What I want you to do is I want you to show your work, and if you don't, then your notes are incomplete. All right, so x plus 1 is the same as 5 minus x. Negative x is less than x, so I'm going to add x to both sides. I have 2x plus 1 equals 5. I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. Because at plus 1, the opposite is minus 1. 2x equals 4. Divide by the coefficient of x. I get x equals 2. So, my final answer will be up here, 2 something. So now I'm going to plug this in. Y, I want to find out what y equals. Equals, in place of x, I'm going to put in my 2 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1 equals 3. So the combination 2, 3 works for both of those. All right, number 5. Once again, show all your work. Show me how you got this. All right, so I get 3x minus 5 equals 1/2 x. All right. So 1/2 is less than 3, so I'm going to subtract 1/2 x from both sides. Now 1/2 x minus 1/2 x leaves me 0. I must write the 0 because that's the only thing over there. So now I have 2.5x, or 2.5x minus 5 equals 0. Going to add my 5 to both sides. I have 2.5x equals 5. A little more space down here. Divide by the coefficient of x. I have x equals 2. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and plug it into this first equation solved for y. I know my answer will begin with 2 for the x value, so I'm going to put y equals 3 times 2 minus 5. That's 6 minus 5, which is 1. So y equals 1. Alright, number 6, I have negative x plus 3 equals x plus 1. Now watch this. Negative x is less than x, so I'm going to move this one. Plus x plus x. I end up with 3 equals 2x plus 1. I'm going to move the 1. 2 equals 2x. I'm sure you've already figured this out, but I want to go through the motions. Divide by my coefficient. I have x equals 1. So if x equals 1, I can go ahead and put in my 1 up here. And then I'm going to substitute it. Let's do it. This one looks much easier. Y equals 1. That's my x plus 1, which is 2. Alright. So notice that your answer must be in coordinate form. You solve both equations for y. Set the other side of the y, the equals part, equal to each other. Solve for x. Plug x back into one of the original equations and solve for y. It doesn't matter which one because it'll work for both.